You're listening to The Pump Fake.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Pump Fake, powered by FanDuel. I'm Jarrett Bailey, but you already knew that. What wrestler used to say that? I thought about that for the intro and immediately was like, I know it was a wrestler and it's going to really bother me until I remember who did it. If nobody comments it, we're doing this episode live. If nobody comments who it was, I'm just going to have to Google it afterwards because it's really been bothering me for the last hour or so. So hopefully somebody can figure that out. But yes, welcome in. We're heading into week 9 in the NFL season. The trade deadline is quickly approaching. It's less than a week away, a week from Tuesday. So 6 days until the NFL trade deadline comes. So I prepared 5 trades that I want to see happen. It's not going to be, like I'm going to say right now, I didn't put a Trey Hendrickson trade in there because everyone's talked about that. I didn't put in, a lot of the big names. But there's some in here that make sense for both sides. That was kind of the way I wanted to approach it. Does it make sense for both sides? And why would the team trading this player want to do it? Why would the team bringing him in need to do it? That's kind of the thought process behind all of this. And then after that, I'll give you my power rankings heading into week 9. And then on Friday, the week 9 preview show, previewing every game on the docket. So if you're watching on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe. If you're listening as a podcast, leave a comment, leave a review. If you're watching this live on Twitter as well, get in your comments and be part of the show. So let's start with my first one here. I'm going to go with the Cowboys trading for Riq Woolen from the Seattle Seahawks. You look at Dallas's big issue right now. It's the fact that their defense is very bad and consistently gets beaten over the top. They had a fella, and I'm going to butcher his name because I can't remember it. I think it was Trikweze Bridges as a starter last week at corner. And no disrespect to Mr. Bridges, but that very much sounds like a Key and Peele skit name. And he got beaten plenty of he had an interception on the first drive of the game. But after that, Bo Nix and Sean Payton was like, yeah, target that guy. That's where we're going to spend. That's where we're going to have the most success. So Dallas, offensively, they're awesome. Top 5 in EPA. They score a ton of points. They need somebody on defense who can be a lockdown corner. The Seahawks have made it pretty clear they're not going to be extending Riq Woolen. I mean, these rumors about him being moved or at least being available to be moved have been going on for a month or so now. So I think a move to Dallas would be good for Riq Woolen. It gives Dallas somebody on the boundary who can lock down starting corner or starting receivers, and should hopefully see the Cowboys' defensive efficiency increase. They don't need to be, a top 10 defense, and that's not going to happen. But if they can just get into, the top 18, 19, just be mediocre, and the offense keeps playing the way that the offense is playing, then they should be able to get things together and get into the postseason. But right now, that defense is very bad, consistently gets beaten over the top. We saw it happen against Chicago, saw it happen against Denver this past week. They need help on the boundary at corner. Bring in Riq Woolen and help solve some issues at that spot. Next up, the Buccaneers trading for Calvin Ridley of the Tennessee Titans. When you have Mike Evans go down, that's a hard thing to replace. Luckily, Emeka Egbuka has been playing awesome. And, when they drafted Emeka, I was one of the people who was like, all right, you already have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Why are you taking a receiver this early? It's worked out, and I look stupid forever saying that. Emeka Egbuka looks like a future All-Pro. This guy's been awesome. But at the same time, no Mike Evans. Chris Godwin's been dealing with injuries. And it's been nice to see, the likes of Tez Johnson be a good story this year in terms of the way that he's been playing. Sterling Shepard there as well, but I believe he's also dealt with an injury. Bring in somebody who's a starting caliber receiver. You could put him on the boundary or in the slot. And in this instance, if you can go when they're completely healthy, Emeka Egbuka, Chris Godwin, and Calvin Ridley in the slot, that's a pretty good lineup to have if you're Tampa Bay. The Titans aren't winning anything of note. That's pretty evident. And, the team as a whole routinely just gets blown out every week. Get as much as you can with the pieces that you have that aren't going to be part of your future. If they can get a day 3 pick for Calvin Ridley, that's better than holding on to him and getting nothing. So trade Calvin Ridley if you're Tennessee to a team in Tampa Bay who's had several receivers go down. And then if you're the Buccaneers, once you do get healthy at that position, you're not going to get Mike Evans back, which does stink. But this is a team with real Super Bowl aspirations, are the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield's been playing at an MVP-like level. The last 2 weeks haven't been great, but get him Calvin Ridley, who can move, again, from the slot or be put on the boundary, similar to Emeka Egbuka. Chris Godwin coming back with Sterling Shepard as well as the number 4. Tez Johnson can be that number 5 who you work in and get some reps too. But if you can go 5 deep at receiver once you get healthy again, that's a pretty good spot to be in if you're Tampa Bay. Next up, the Buffalo Bills trade for Dolphin safety Minkah Fitzpatrick. And, some people might say, interdivision trades, those rarely happen. And that's true, but we've already seen this year that for the right price, the Browns sent Joe Flacco to the Bengals. The Dolphins, it's not like they're contending for anything right now. They're 2-6. They're going to be going through a rebuild this coming offseason. It doesn't really hurt them if they trade Minkah to the Bills, a team who really needs help on the back end. The secondary for Buffalo is really bad. You look at their safeties in particular with Taylor Rapp, Cole Bishop, DeMar Hamlin. They drafted, I think it's Jordan Hancock, who's their other safety back there right now, a day 3 pick. They need a veteran leader in the secondary and on the defense to really help them out. Cornerback-wise, they haven't been great. Max Hairston got his first action against Carolina, and he actually looked pretty solid. If Christian Benford can get back to the way he looked last year or anywhere close to that, if Max Hairston turns out to be a good pick, Taron Johnson needs to get better at nickel. He needs to get better at tackling. But that's why you target a guy like Minkah Fitzpatrick who can be that ball hawk in the secondary, but is also a very good tackler. If they can get something done there, then you have 2 veteran guys back there in Jordan Poyer, who's much older than Minkah. He's, I think, 35 now. Minkah, who is 29. You have a veteran there who can still play. We've seen that. That's been pretty evident so far with Miami. He's been one of the only guys who's shown any sort of capability of playing with Miami this season. So if you can get something there with Minkah Fitzpatrick, put him in the secondary, it would help out Buffalo's defense tremendously, especially when you look at the issues that they've had up front and stopping the run. Minkah can come down in the box and help against the run. He did that a lot when he was with Pittsburgh. So I think getting Minkah Fitzpatrick for the Buffalo Bills would be a big acquisition for Buffalo. I'm going to take a quick pause right here and acknowledge this video's sponsor, which is Whatnot. Guys, if you know me, you know how much of a nerd I am. The office is decorated and decked out in Batman Funkos, toys, collectibles, horror figures, horror collectibles. And as you can see the backdrop behind me, a lot of different collectibles there as well. You can get all of that, whatever your fix is, over at whatnot.com, whether it's trading cards, figurines, whatever your fix is, whatever you like to do, Whatnot has it all. I'm going to put a link in the description of the video once we're done live streaming here to get you signed up over at whatnot.com. I love Whatnot. Again, if you want toys, Funkos, collectibles, trading cards, they've got it all over there at Whatnot. So I highly recommend, once this video is done, head down to the description, click the link and get started and see if Whatnot has what you're looking for, because I bet they do. So thank you to Whatnot. Again, I love Whatnot very, very much. So go and give them a look once we're done here. Next up, the Washington Commanders get help off the edge and bring in Jalen Phillips from the Miami Dolphins. 2-6 Miami, they're going to be big sellers. Some might point to Bradley Chubb being the name here. But if I'm Washington, I've already got old Von Miller. I want to get a little bit younger at that spot. Jalen Phillips, when he's healthy, is a pretty solid edge rusher. They don't really have a number 1 there right now. Dorrance Armstrong was supposed to be that, but even so, that's not a high-level 1. Jalen Phillips is not an S-tier 1 either, but he's closer to being that than what Dorrance Armstrong is. And if you can acquire Jalen Phillips, once Dorrance Armstrong gets healthy and you have Phillips, Armstrong, and Von Miller, that's a pretty solid edge rusher rotation that you have there. Secondary wise, Washington could be in the market for a cornerback as well. I know Marshawn Lattimore had an interception against the Chiefs, but he's played very poorly throughout this season thus far. They need to get better on that side of the ball. They're old and they're young players like a Mike Sainer still has shown flashes of being good, but is still very young. So they don't have that nice balance of, a veteran who still has some youth to him. Jalen Phillips, I believe this is his fourth year in the league. So been around for a little bit, but also not extremely old. And I think that would be a good move for Washington to bring him in and see what he can give them off the edge. Next up, the Denver Broncos trading for Cleveland Browns tight end David Njoku. They signed Evan Ingram in the offseason, and he's largely been a non-factor. Hasn't really been like a go-to tight end for them. David Njoku, on the other hand, can give you the best of both worlds. He can block really well. He's a really good receiving threat. And somebody like that would fit really well in with Sean Payton's offense. It would give Bo Nix a really reliable safety blanket underneath to complement Cortland Sutton and Marvin Mims at receiver. So that's something that I would pay attention to in terms of Denver reportedly wanting to add a tight end. David Njoku makes sense here because the Browns have Harold Fannin, who has emerged as like their leading receiver right now. Really good player out of Bowling Green that they drafted this past April. He's the future at the position. David Njoku is going to be a free agent this offseason. If you're Denver, send a day 3 pick for David Njoku. If it's a 4th round pick, I think that's pretty fair value for what he'll bring to the table. And for Cleveland, it gives you another draft pick in the 2026 draft. So it makes sense for both parties. I think David Njoku to the Denver Broncos makes a lot of sense. Oh, by the way, hey, here we go. Breaking news into the pump fake here. The Eagles are trading for cornerback Michael Carter from the Jets. They get a 7th round pick as well in the trade. What are they sending in exchange for this? So the Eagles are sending John Mechie and a 2027 6th to the Jets in exchange for Michael Carter and a 2027 7th round pick. So breaking news, a trade happening as we talk about the trade deadline here on the pump fake. The Eagles getting Michael Carter, the cornerback from the Jets, and they send John Mechie, who they traded for from Houston this past offseason. They trade John Mechie then to the Jets as New York looks for another pass-catching option. John Mechie was very good coming out of Alabama. Obviously had the cancer situation that he had to get dealt with. So hopefully he gets a fresh start there and gets a real look with the Jets. So how about that? A trade happens as we're talking about trades. The final one that I'll talk about in terms of trades that should happen, I'll say Anthony Richardson goes to the Vikings. This one feels pretty chalky. That's probably the most chalky one I've had. But when you look at the situation at quarterback for the Vikings this year, Carson Wentz has been pretty bad. J.J. McCarthy wasn't very good in the 2 games that he participated in. In 7 of the 8 quarters, he played bad football. Carson Wentz is now done for the year with a shoulder injury. Max Brosmer is the only other quarterback on the roster. And if you can get Anthony Richardson for, I don't know, a 4th or 5th round pick, that's something that you should probably do if you're Minnesota. A guy with that much upside, because there's a ton of upside there in terms of his size, his athleticism. It's just a matter of honing in the arm and making it less of a fire hydrant, spraying water around. Turn him into a really good straight firing hose, and you have something there. Go to the school of Kevin O'Connell, which we've seen has worked out for Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones. And look, if J.J. McCarthy ends up not being the guy, then you have somebody there who at least gives you a lot of upside that you can try again to, a raw talent that if you can craft him into being a more accurate passer and a more consistent passer, you have something there in Anthony Richardson if you're the Vikings in that situation. I think that the Colts, you got to remember, Daniel Jones is only on a 1-year deal. Are they going to make the same mistake that Minnesota did and let Daniel Jones walk the same way that the Vikings let Daniel Jones walk? Yes, but they also let Sam Darnold walk in the same offseason. I think that Daniel Jones is going to be the Colts quarterback for the long haul. What that deal looks like, I think it'll be somewhat similar to what Geno Smith got from Seattle at the time, what Ryan Tannehill got from Tennessee at the time. I think it's going to be one of those situations. So if you're the Colts, you send Anthony Richardson to a quarterback needy team in Minnesota, a quarterback whisperer and Kevin O'Connell, and see what you can do there if you're the Vikings. So those are the trades that I would like to see. There's plenty of other ones. And, we're doing this on a Wednesday. So 6 days until the trade deadline. Let me know in the comments what trades you want to see. And I'm sure I'll be replying to a few of those in the YouTube comments. And if you're watching on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/@JBaileyNFL. And if you're listening as a podcast, leave a comment, leave a review. And in your review, let me know what trades you want to see. And there's plenty of them that I didn't put on here. Like I said, the Trey Hendrickson stuff has just been talked about to death, and I didn't want to be another talking head talking about Trey Hendrickson being dealt to the Lions or the Colts. Those are the two teams that everybody and their mother has been labeling. And we've seen trades happen already. Kyle Duggar, the Patriots safety, got traded to Pittsburgh. Deshaun Elliott went down with an injury for the Steelers, so they bring in Kyle Duggar. Really good player in terms of what he did in New England. Was a 17-game starter there in 2023. New regime, just didn't fit in with the new scheme. They were trying to trade him before the season started, and now they deal him to the Steelers. Now Pittsburgh has two former Patriots safeties on the roster because you remember the Patriots cut Jabril Peppers. The Steelers then signed him, and then now Pittsburgh trading for Kyle Duggar. So two former Patriots safeties, both guys who were starting on the back end last year in New England, now in Pittsburgh. We'll see how they get utilized as a tandem, as the Steelers have had real issues at that spot with Juan Thornhill and Chuck Clark. And like I said, Deshaun Elliott going down with an injury. So Kyle Duggar goes to the Steelers. And again, let me know what trades you want to see, trades that you think we'll see in the comments below. All right, let's get to the power rankings. Week 9 power rankings on the Pump Fake. So we'll start left corner, 1 through 8. The Kansas City Chiefs stay atop my power rankings. The Colts rise up a few spots, climbing to number 2. And I've been hesitant to put the Colts, as like a big top 5 team. But every week, man, they're not just beating teams, they're beating the hell out of teams. Where it's 38-7, 38-14, 31-7. They got 76 points over the last 2 games, over 100 in their last 3. This is a very good team. The Lions fall 1 just because I think the Colts have been more dominant in their games. Green Bay stays put at 4. They beat Pittsburgh on Sunday night this past week. They overcome a 16-7 halftime deficit, put up 21 fourth quarter points, win 35-25 against the Steelers. They stay put at 4. They're still my pick to come out of the NFC. The Los Angeles Rams drop 2 spots. Again, a team on a bye. This could very well be the victim of recency bias, but I really like what the Colts are doing. The Rams are still a team that I'm very high on, and I expect to do big things throughout the rest of the year. Philadelphia jumps 3 spots after a really decisive win over the Giants. The Patriots jump up 1 spot after a very decisive win over the Cleveland Browns. The Buccaneers fall a couple spots. Yes, they won 23-3. Offensively, they didn't look great. The Saints actually had a goal line stand against the Bucs, where the Buccaneers ran the ball 4 straight times and New Orleans stuffed them on every carry. So defensively, the Bucs looked really good against a Saints team that really lacks any sort of offensive firepower. But credit to them, they beat a bad team. I just think that Philadelphia was more impressive, New England was more impressive. So Tampa Bay drops down a little bit. To round out the top 10, Buffalo jumps up 1 spot after blowing out the Panthers 40-9. James Cook had one of the best rushing performances in the history of the Buffalo Bills, totaling 216 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Seahawks, again, didn't play. They probably shouldn't have fallen 3 spots, but they stay in the top 10. That's a dominant defense and an offense that's playing really well so far. The Chargers jump up quite a few spots here, as you see on the screen. I have them jumping up, was it 6 spots, 5 spots? Nice win for them this past weekend. And, as Justin Herbert continues to play well, I look forward to seeing what that team can look like as a whole. They really beat down the Minnesota Vikings on Thursday night. Denver Broncos jump up 5 spots. Just a beatdown of the Dallas Cowboys. Absolute beatdown. Now, look, The Cowboys defense has not played well, but to put up 44 points on any team and the manner in which they did it, that deserves a lot of credit. And so I know I've been low on the Broncos. I still don't think that they're a Super Bowl team, but that's a team that can win a playoff game depending on who they play. Maybe get to the divisional round. I think they're very Texans-y right now from 2024 and 2023, where I don't think that they're a Super Bowl threat, but I do think that they can win a playoff game. The Jaguars somehow go up a spot just because of the teams that fell. They're at 13. I had them at 14 last week, but the 49ers got pretty well handled by the Houston Texans, a team that I'm not very high on right now. So they dropped 2 spots. The biggest faller of the week for me was the Dallas Cowboys dropping 4 spots. The offense didn't play well. They had a chance to score early on after that takeaway. They settled for a field goal because of a false start penalty. And then offensively, they just never really recovered. Defensively, they gave up 44 points to a Denver offense that doesn't have any stars outside of Cortland Sutton. So Dallas, a big reason why I think they should go out and trade for Reek Willen is because of that defense. So they dropped 4 spots. They are sitting at 15. The Steelers dropped 3 spots, 2 straight losses. I didn't expect them. I mean, you guys know I'm a Steelers fan. I didn't expect them to beat Green Bay. That was a team that I picked them to lose to at the beginning of the year when I was going through the schedule. I should have known that they were going to lose to the Bengals. It was a Thursday night game, but they've gone from 4-1 to now 4-3. And that's just, anytime that happens, you got to fall down the power ranking. So they're 16. The Chicago Bears lose to the Tyler Huntley-led Baltimore Ravens. They dropped 2 spots to 17. Houston jumps up 4 spots after beating San Francisco pretty handily. That was a big win for them. The Ravens have a massive jump up to 18, or excuse me, up to 19. They jump 8 spots because now they're getting Lamar Jackson back. They're playing a very bad Dolphins team, albeit on the road on Thursday night, and those games tend to be weird, so it might be closer than some expect. But getting Lamar Jackson back, if the defense can just be mediocre, that they should be able to overcome a 1-5 deficit and get to the postseason. Right now, by the way, the Steelers are playing. I wouldn't be shocked if Baltimore comes all the way back and wins the AFC North. At number 20, the Commanders. Terry McLaurin's not playing again this Sunday. Jaden Daniels wasn't playing against Kansas City. This whole season has been stricken by injuries to their 2 best offensive players. The Vikings drop down a spot after the loss to the Chargers. They're 21. The Giants drop a spot. Really hate to see what happened to Cam Scatterbo. Nothing but well wishes for him. Really stinks to see everything happening to the Giants in terms of their offensive injuries. Malik Neighbors tears his ACL, dislocated ankle for Cam Scatterbo against the Eagles. Just a ton of really bright young talent on that team. And Jackson Dart, hopefully he stays healthy for the rest of the year so we can keep seeing his progression. But the Giants drop down a spot. They're 2-6, but man, they're fun to watch. The Atlanta Falcons. We don't have to care about the Atlanta Falcons. This is such an inconsistent nothing team. They dropped 4 spots after getting blown out by the Miami Dolphins. Doesn't matter who's in at quarterback. Obviously wish nothing but the best for Kirk. I hope he goes somewhere where, if he wants to keep playing, he gets a chance to play on a team that is a quarterback away. But that team's a mess right now. They dropped 4 spots. Somehow the Panthers, again, depending on what happens in certain situations, the Panthers shouldn't have come up at all whatsoever. But I put the Bengals down because of a blown lead to the New York Jets. And if you want to say that the Bengals are better than the Panthers, that's fine. But again, when you get to the bottom of these rankings here, it gets a little bit complex. So the Panthers are 24. The Bengals are 25. They were winning 17-3 at one point, 31-16 at one point, and then they give up 23 fourth quarter points to the Jets. That's just unacceptable. I had the Dolphins jump up to 28. I had them in the low, hovering around 31-32 for the past few weeks. They're now at 28 after a win over Atlanta. The Browns dropped 4 spots after just a blowout loss to the Patriots, where they started off hot. Harold Fannin had the touchdown and put them up 7-3, and then they drop 6 points the rest of the way, and New England just runs over them. The New Orleans Saints continue to fall. That's just, again, a nothing team right now. They're starting Tyler Shuck, who I don't expect to be much. They should be big sellers at the deadline. The Cardinals, again, another nothing team. They drop a spot. They started off 2-0, and I said at the time, yeah, that means nothing. This is not a good football team. The Jets, they rise up 2 spots. They get a win. A very touching win, I'll add. Nick Mangold passing away on Sunday. And for them to rally in the way that they did, I don't know if I believe in a higher power, but that felt as close to divine intervention as you could get in a football game. So thoughts with the family and friends, loved ones of Nick Mangold, sending just tons of thoughts and positive energy to everybody affected by his loss, and a very touching win for the New York Jets to get their first win on the season. Las Vegas Raiders dropped 2 spots. Bad quarterback play, bad defense, just everything bad for the Las Vegas Raiders right now. And then the Tennessee Titans routinely just getting blown out week after week after week. They fire Brian Callahan. Not much has really changed with Mike McCoy. There's just no talent on that team for them to go anywhere right now. And so that, everybody, is the Week 9 power rankings. And as we head into Thursday Night Football, let's get those odds pulled up from our friends over at FanDuel for Ravens and Dolphins. Again, that game in Miami, those games tend to be a little bit weird in favor of the home team. There's exceptions to every rule. We saw Miami get blown out by Buffalo last year on Thursday night in Miami. The Ravens are 7.5-point favorites, according to FanDuel. So keep that in mind as we go into Thursday Night Football. Dolphins hosting the Ravens. Keaton chimes in and says, would rather see Kyler Murray traded to Minnesota than Anthony Richardson. Kyler Murray, I think we've seen the best of Kyler Murray, and I think Kyler Murray just stinks, frankly speaking. Anthony Richardson, now you could very well say, well, Anthony Richardson isn't good either. That's completely fair. He's also only in year 3, and there could be something there. If Shane Steichen couldn't find it, then maybe no one can find it. That's also a fair argument, but I think I would rather take my chances with Anthony Richardson and seeing what's there as a backup and see if he can hone in on anything than Kyler Murray as a starter. I just don't think Kyler Murray's good. I held out for a while on Kyler Murray. I was really hoping that we'd see him take a step and become like a really good quarterback. He just hasn't. Every year's kind of the same with Kyler Murray. He'll have a game where he plays really well, 2 where he does next to nothing. And that's just kind of the Kyler Murray roller coaster ride. So I'm very much out on Kyler Murray. He'll be on a new team next year. I would bet money on that. Where that will be, I don't know. Perhaps Miami, because I think Tua is going to be gone too. But that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, Kyler Murray, not my cup of tea personally. And again, if you're watching on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you're listening as a podcast, leave a comment, leave a review. And we'll be back Friday for the Week 9 preview show. My buddy Joe Cerallo from CBS Sports will be here to preview Week 9, as well as give our best bets. So if you want a little bit of gambling advice going into Week 9, Joe and I will give you our best bets, put together a little parlay. All odds brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. So appreciate everybody for tuning in. If you're watching live, thank you very much. If you're watching after the fact, thanks to you too. Again, leave a comment, leave a review, subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back on Friday to preview Week 9. Till then, this is the Pump Fake.